Welcome to the Drexel interview. I'm your host, Paula Morantz-Cohn, and today our guest is Anne Darnancourt, Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Anne Darnancourt, welcome to the Drexel interview.
Delighted to be here.
Anne, you've been director of the Philadelphia Museum of Art since 1982. Is that right?
It's right.
That happens to be the year that I came to Philadelphia. So my entire time in Philly has been knowing the museum under your directorship. And I wondered if you talk a little bit about what the museum is like when you got here and how it's changed in terms of how it's been revised and expanded or whatever in your tenure.
Well, I might have to go back a little further than that in that case, because I actually first came to Philadelphia to take a job at the museum as a pipsqueak, as an assistant to the assistant in a curatorial department in 1967.
Oh, okay.
So at that point, the museum was not air-conditioned. The museum had still a fair amount of its public space that was not open to the public because it was still sort of storage or unused, and the evolution since that time has been amazing. The museum, the city of Philadelphia, which owns the building, which built the building, and which arguably is one of the greatest art museum buildings, not only in the United States, but really anywhere. It's amazing. But they actually air-conditioned the building in 1976. And we were able to add a big special exhibition gallery and to redo the American wing. But all of this had nothing to do with me.
Okay.
Because I was curator of modern art or contemporary art during that time. I think in 1982, the thing that most needed doing, aside from doing the great exhibitions and publishing the collection and acquiring wonderful things for the collection, that has been very important to do in developing great education programs, all was on a base of what had been done in the past. But the most important thing was probably the reinstallation of all the European collections.
Okay.
I think people, over the last 10 years, people have gotten very used to thinking of the collections the way they are now. When you walk in on the first floor, or you walk up to the first floor, which is what you usually do, special exhibition galleries are on the left, and on the right, you look through the Impressionist galleries and you see the great Cezanne bathers at the end.
Right.
And then you go up to the second floor and you see on the left, you see the wonderful Gothic and medieval galleries with a great Van der Weyden painting hanging at the end of those galleries, which makes perfect sense chronologically. It makes a walk through the museum make sense to anybody, even if they have never been there. In 1982, that was not the case.
Really?
And all of the collection of John G. Johnson, one of the great lawyers in Philadelphia, who had left his collection to the city of Philadelphia before the museum was ever built, was all installed in one block of galleries. So you went from early Italian to late 19th century, just like that. And then you went up to the second floor and you did the same thing all over again. So
This was because collections had been kept together?
This was because collections had been kept together, and which made a lot of sense at the beginning. It made sense when the museum was not full of other things. The museum grew over time. The museum was finished, the building was finished in 1928. And it grew by slow increments over time, first adding a great armor collection or adding a great modern collection or adding this, that, and the other thing. But there were compartmentalized sections of it. But the original vision of the museum was to be what the director called a walk through time. So the curators and the educators and everyone who worked with the building and its interior got together and made a plan to reorganize how the European collections in particular were displayed, and to make this new plan which made much more sense for the public. So you didn't have a Cezanne on the second floor and a Cezanne on the first floor.
Sure.
And that was one of the most, that took It took almost 10 years to achieve, first to plan it, to work our way through all the logistics about actually doing it, to raise the money, and then to do it. So I think that's one of the most important things that that I look back on. But that already finished in the 1990s. And I think what the things that have been happening at the museum in the last decade, if you will, have been focused on really maximizing the museum's potential as a great arts institution. Building the collection, we had a wonderful excuse, you might say. We had a 125th anniversary of the founding of the museum in 2001. And so we said, what's the most important thing we could do? And that is build wonderful additions to the collection. So
additions, you mean specific acquisitions to fill gaps in the collection?
Yes, filling gaps in the collection, whole groups of things. For example, a wonderful collector in New York who had a great collection of Renaissance maiolica, that beautiful multicolored, very, very beautifully decorated Renaissance ceramics, some of them very big, very bold and beautiful. We had a small but very fine group. He gave us, in honor of our anniversary, this marvelous collection that gave us all of a sudden one of the greatest collections in the country. The same thing, a great collection of 2,000 photographs belonging to a great surrealist gallery owner and dealer called Julian Levy. Two trustees of the museum helped acquire this whole collection for the museum, which really transformed our photography collection.
Now that was a Dalí dealer, wasn't he?
He was actually. Julian Levy showed the work of Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wondered if there were some connection then to your decision to have the big Dalí retrospective, which is going on now, and which is, I suppose, is it one of the largest, if not the largest, exhibitions you've ever had?
It's definitely one of the largest. It's certainly one of the largest exhibitions we've ever had. It's also the largest exhibition in this country of Dali's work since, I don't know when, for 60 years, something like that, since his lifetime. One of the point about exhibitions is very interesting, because over the last, again, 10, 15 years, we've always done wonderful exhibitions at the museum. The exhibitions are very usually and naturally tied into strengths that in the museum's collection. For example, we did a great Cézanne exhibition. I mentioned the Cézanne bathers. That's it's sort of like the gateway to modern art that hangs just between the 19th century galleries, and then you turn the corner into the 20th century, and the Cézanne kind of frames the entrance, exactly how Picasso and Matisse would have thought of him as being the man who showed the way into the 20th century.
Now, was this, by the way, was this your decision to put the bathers there?
Actually, that was Joe Rischel's decision. My husband, who is senior curator of European painting and sculpture, and he and his colleague Dean Walker, who is senior curator of European decorative arts, and then a whole group of their colleagues worked very hard on the reinstallation of the collections. But the exhibitions that the museum has done, whether we did a great Aikens exhibition, that again it's the greatest collection of Aikens work in the United States, because it was his hometown, and because his widow and her very close friend decided to give the entire studio contents after Aikens' death to the museum, because of the admiration that an earlier director had for his work. So very often our exhibitions capitalize on the great things in our collection, and that's when you mentioned Dalí. It's interesting, if you walk through the exhibition that's on now, at one point you hit this extraordinary painting of a great figure kind of eating itself up. It's called soft construction and boiled beans, and you don't know whether it's eating itself up or tearing itself apart. It's very grotesque, and it's agonized. I mean, it's about a country consuming itself. It's about the Spanish Civil War. And in Dali's mind, this was so immensely destructive of the people of Spain that it was like someone cannibalizing themselves. And that painting belongs to the museum. And one walks through, even with Philadelphians, and we stop at that painting and they say, wow, that's here.
Yeah.
And you say, that's always here.
Yeah.
But there are so many other great paintings in the exhibition that you find Dali to be a whole new figure than most people have a kind of concept in their minds of what he's like, what his work was like, and they walk through the exhibition, and I think they may come out loving him, they may come out hating him, they may come out not understanding him, but I think actually that's not true. They come out understanding him a lot better than
I think they come out respecting him in a way that perhaps at least the art historical establishment up until now hasn't as much. And from that point of view, it seems to me the exhibition is very educational.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I think, first of all, you learn where he came from. You learn a lot about the sort of little, wonderful small town in the northeast of Spain along the Mediterranean called Figueras, where he grew up. And all of Catalonia, of course, he was very Catalan. And the feeling for the landscape in which he grew up and the kind of close-knit, very intense feeling of the people there is translated into the early work. And then you go all the way to the end in the late 50s and 60s, these huge, strange paintings that look very contemporary in a way. And then you still see some of those same motifs from his childhood. I agree. I think it's an amazing experience.
It's an amazing exhibit. I really do think so. And I was not a big Dali fan before I saw it. I am much more so, having seen the exhibit. Was it the, soft construction with boiled beans? That painting that the Philadelphia Museum has, was that the impetus for this? Did that sort of trigger the thought? What made you, and what makes you in general decide to have a big exhibition or work on creating an exhibition that will go somewhere else or all over the world?
I think there are a lot of different inspirations, you might say. It always springs from a curator's mind as to what is the most exciting thing to do next, what's timely, what is an idea that just cries out to be done. There hadn't been a Dali exhibition, as we were saying, for so long that we had a great picture. This is a case where we were actually invited to be the second venue of the exhibition, though the first one was in Venice, in Italy. And we were invited by the Spanish commissioners of the exhibition, I think in part, I hope, because they know what a distinguished record of great exhibitions we do. I'm sure that the fact we had two actually wonderful paintings by Dali made a difference. But it's and then the passion of the curator, Michael Taylor, who put his body and soul into collaborating on this exhibition with the wonderful guest curator in Venice. All these things go together. So it has usually to do with the passion of the curator, the strength of the museum in a particular area, but it also can have to do with something that's timely. And I think that Salvador Dali, for example, it's a very timely exhibition, because it's a moment where people are very bemused about what is the relationship of art to film and to the new media, and what
And he dabbled in all these things.
He dabbled in everything. He was fascinated by popular culture.
Absolutely. And his self-presentation was so dramatic. I'm thinking, also